And we are back again. David, you want to introduce us, my friend?
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Uncommon Man podcast. I'm your host, David. This is the other host, Mike. Tonight, we have a treat for you. We're going to get into something a little bit different. We're going to kind of shift gears, shift focus a little bit. You know, typically we talk about NFL and kind of all NFL news, or we talk Denver Broncos. Tonight, we're talking NHL. Okay, right now we're in NHL free agency, NHL draft coming up. Mike is the expert on draft. I don't have as much knowledge as Mike, but I'm gonna do my best to co-host this tonight. Mike is gonna take the lead. So Mike, let's talk about all things NHL. What you got to say?
Dude, growth and development. You get to be Tarico for me tonight, dude.
Let's go, man.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So today was the second day of the NHL draft for 2020. Obviously, with everything in this odd world we got going on right now, it was really weird, the process of it. Like they had some of the main stars there at a building. They were just in separated rooms with their families during the process. So they would get called, and then someone would go give them the hat in their office or in their little sectioned off room that they were in. So it was kind of confusing what was going on there. Second day of the draft, just like with the NFL or any other sports, I'm not quite sure. I don't follow basketball or any of that crap, so I don't know what their process is. I don't think soccer is a real sport anymore, and baseball never has been. So let's see how many people we can piss off with that one. Yeah. So with the second day of the draft, obviously everybody's at home. They get the phone call. Bam, you're on the clock. You're a part of this organization. How do you feel? Oh, it feels really great. I was really happy to be taken first overall because I'm going to be getting paid a lot, even though I'm going to a team that sucks. So, yeah, I'm real excited. This is where my career is going to begin out at, that kind of conversation. So,
a lot of guys missing teeth and talking. Like,
no.
Teeth missing there.
Dude, those guys, because so in high school and college, anything up till the NHL, they have to have a full face shield. So those guys those guys have a full dental program, dude. So here's the ridiculousness in it, is the fact that when you hit the NHL, they actually have legalities in place. You're not allowed to wear a full face mask unless you have like a broken jaw or you've just recently gotten free dental work because somebody knocked you out or you got hit by the puck. So I don't understand how ridiculous that, like what the concept behind that is, other than maybe the fighting aspect. They just want to keep it as real and genuine as possible. But either way, in my opinion, if you're not out there and you don't take many fights, you should be allowed to wear a full face shield if you want to. But I mean, if I don't want to have my nose and my mouth rearranged over, a 5 to 10 year span of playing a professional sport, I think that should be my right. But not according to NHL. Anyways, now that we've gone on a little safety tangent.
So let's talk about, so you said that this is the second night of the draft. So let's start with night one. What was the big highlights?
So let's go through it if you want.
Yeah.
Sweet. So this is per NBC Sports. We have, and all this is just a reference for the fun folks that are watching right now. So the number one pick overall this year was going to be a guy named by the name of Alexis Lafreniere. He's from Canada. Imagine that. And basically, he's supposed to be kind of one of these generational players, if you will. So, no question. The way the NHL works is actually a lottery system. They were kind of the ones that pioneered that, I believe. It was don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure that they were the first ones to come up with it. Because in the hockey world, it's a lot easier to tank for the number one overall position. But like NFL, they're still trying to play for wins. Well, in hockey, they literally sell the farm if the team stinks about 3/4 of the way through the season at the trade deadline. Just so that way they can accumulate a whole bunch of draft capital. And and it's really easy. It's a lot easier for hockey teams to take. So what ended up happening was it was really starting to affect the views, and they came up with a lottery system where it's like, all right, well, even though you tanked That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get number one. That just means that your odds have increased for getting number one.
Right. So I'm assuming that, again, I don't watch the NBA draft, so I'm assuming it's kind of the same to the NBA draft. Either that or they kind of piggyback off of each other, because the same thing, the NBA operates off the lottery system. Even though you do tank, that doesn't guarantee that you get the number one overall pick. But looking at this, so the New York Rangers, how would you say they fared last year?
So this is the wild thing about this year. So because of the global circumstances that have occurred, it ended up being the way that the commissioner ended up establishing this year's lottery system. The number 2 pick ended up being the worst team that was in the league. But they took the number 1 pick, and all the teams that were in the Stanley Cup playoffs when they were in the bubble. So they had an expanded Stanley Cup playoffs this year, and there was what's called a play-in round. All the teams that were like on the lower tier of the bubble beforehand, like when the season actually shut down because of the pandemic, those teams had to play and fight for their right to be in the Stanley Cup. So it was like a pre-wild card, wild card, man. It was pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. Well, the first teams that were out in that round ended up going into a lottery system themselves. And out of, I think it was like 8 teams, don't quote me, I'm pretty sure it was like 8 teams. The Rangers ended up being the ones to get the number 1 overall pick. So it was, I don't really understand why they did it, but it is what it is. The Rangers, by the way, are a very good team. They're a great roster. They just couldn't really put it all together last year. So the fact that they got this guy just makes them, they're potentially Stanley Cup bound for the next year or 2.
Okay, yeah, that was going to be my next question, because if this guy was a generational player, or so supposed to be a generational player, how would that affect or increase their odds? So let's go through. So, all right, so we got number 1 out the way. So we got the Los Angeles Kings.
Yeah, they stink. I'm going to go through and tell you which of these teams is worth talking about. Kings are still a couple years out from being a playoff contender. Senators are a couple years out. They actually were in the finals a few years ago, and then the next year they completely fell apart just because of a bunch of personal issues within the team, and it ended up turning to a major meltdown. They sold the farm, and they're basically back in rebuild mode. The Red Wings stink. The Senators, when they were trading the farm, they got a bunch of top draft picks. Well, the teams that they traded the players to ended up stinking this year, so they ended up getting a couple of top picks because of it. The Ducks stink. The Devils still stink. The Sabres.
Whoa. So that movie, the Mighty Ducks, isn't real?
Well, I mean, it was back in 2006.
So they were good at one point.
Yeah, for like 1, maybe 2 years.
That's fair. All right. So New Jersey Devils?
Devils stink. They're a couple years out. Buffalo Sabres, they're perennial losers.
With the name Sabres, I would think.
Dude, so there was better talent on the board, and there's a female type that's a Buffalo fan that I'll occasionally check out her videos on YouTube, just because it's pretty tough being a Buffalo fan, man. You got to respect the hell out of them. That's like Browns territory, and yeah, she was watching, and there'd been discussion going around that they wanted Jack Quinn, or I'm sorry, they wanted Marco Rossi, and in typical Buffalo fashion, basically let the fans down and ended up taking Jack Quinn. So I'm not saying Jack Quinn isn't going to be a good player. He is. Marco Rossi just seemed to be more polished and more appropriate for their team right now, which obviously he ended up going to Minnesota Wild. Rest of these are just kind of in order, but not really to be confused. So out of the teams right here, the Carolina Hurricanes, this was a trade they got from Toronto. I can't recall who they sent to them. But, yeah, the Hurricanes are a really good team. The Oilers on paper are probably the best team in the NHL, and they stink. They were so in that play-in round, the 2 hub cities that they were playing the bubble in was Edmonton and Toronto, and both of those teams went out in the first round. So they didn't even get to it. They didn't even get to enjoy the playoffs in their own stadium.
Not even home field advantage. Guys,
0.
Guys, get it together.
No field advantage. Yeah, which the Maple Leafs are perennial losers too. That outfit is it struggles, man. They've got a lot of managerial issues. They've got a really, really tight cap space right now because they've got a young GM in there, and he basically just paid a whole bunch of players. It was one of those bought, not built processes. So the team on paper is fantastic, but when you put it all together, they just don't mesh. Canadians are a good team. That was they've been perennial losers in the last couple of years. They've really turned it around. Blackhawks they've got a lot of old Stanley Cup winners. They've won 3 in the last 10 years. They've had a couple down years, but I mean they've got a bunch of wily vets on there, and they're actually the ones that ended up putting the Oilers out in the first round. So Arizona really screwed the pooch. They actually lost draft picks this year. And what they did do was they made the bad mistake of trading a guy named Taylor Hall, which we're going to discuss him later in the free agency process. They traded the house for him in hopes of making a deep end playoff push, and the Avs ended up just stomping their brains in the second. Avs first round, because the Avs were basically the divisional winners. And so it was the second round going into the division for the Coyotes, and then it was just a bloodbath. The Avs just destroyed them. So Rangers again. Let's see here. So now we're going to get down. Columbus was the only one that was the real wild card for the first round. This guy, Yegor Chinikov. So he's a Russian guy. And literally nobody on the panel had a friggin' clue who he was, dude. Like, it was hilarious because they were showing him looking through their notes going, does anybody have any idea where this guy's from? Like, one guy was all they could do was just make uncomfortable jokes about it because they had no idea. So when they called this guy, they were like, is this dude even draft eligible? Who is this? So, yeah, those are real wild, man. But yeah. So we get down to our beloved Avalanche. They ended up picking up Justin Barron. So he plays right now for the Halifax Mooseheads. And the other superstar that we have on our team currently that we drafted back in 2013 by the name of Nathan McKinnon, that was the team he played for as well. So we've got a couple players right now that are from Nova Scotia. Taking Justin Barron was a really good pick in my opinion. He had a health issue with a blood clot in his leg. So he was out for a couple months, but watching this guy's tape, he exemplifies get the puck to the net. So, like, the biggest problem the Avs have on the power play is they start to get too cute. They pass around the blue line, and then the defenders rarely ever just actually shoot the puck on the net. Well, this guy doesn't mess around. If he gets 2 passes, this thing's going at the net, and he gives the forwards a chance to try and score from that point forward, which is great.
Okay.
I mean, he doesn't mess around. It's like, you know what? If I can't score, somebody up there might be able to. So let's get down to business.
All right, so let me ask you this. So I'm looking at a lot of, I'm assuming is where these guys are coming from.
Yeah.
Are these guys coming out of high school? Are they coming out of college or they're just coming from different places? Because none of these places sounds. I know Chicago. I know Prince Alberta. But, I mean, where are these guys coming from exactly?
So that's what makes the NHL draft such an absolute nightmare, man, is the fact that, like I was talking about this Yegor Chinikov guy, that dude's from, like, literally the sticks in Russia. So with the NHL draft, man, they take people from literally across the globe. And there's not really a rhyme or reason to who's going to get picked. I don't care what anybody says. It's not like the NFL where you just have a certain pool that you pick out of. These guys will pick from Sweden. They'll pick from Norway. They'll pick from Zimbabwe. They don't give a shit. But as long as you put your name in the hat from wherever you're from, that makes you draft eligible. So, yeah, it's a real just absolute terror to try and keep up with some of these guys. The good thing is the majority of them come from USA, Russia, or obviously Canada, since those people will come out of the womb with a hockey stick in their hand. But yeah, so
maple syrup in one, hockey stick in another.
You got it, dude. So yeah, that was our first round pick.
All right, so let's go to the highlights of night 2 tonight.
So our second pick, we didn't have anybody in the second round, but we did have somebody in the third round. We had a guy by the name of Jean-Luc Foudy. So his older brother is actually a beast for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Like he helped carry that team through the playoffs until they ended up losing to the inevitable Stanley Cup champions in the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I'm really excited to see what he can do. His brother is a real gritty dude. And if he carries half the charisma that guy has, man, half the tenacity, he's going to be nasty. So I think if everything plays out well, kid's going to end up being a real steal.
Okay, nice.
Next down, we had a guy named Colby Ambrosio. I don't know much about this kid. I think he's going to be a real developmental case. So in the USHL, he led them in power play goals as well as power play defense. So he was number 1 rated in the USHL on the power play, which is the number 1 thing that our team is horrible at, which is insane considering the scoring percentage that the team puts up. So I'm going to guess it's probably going to take him a couple years to really start figuring out how to play. To my knowledge, though, I believe he's getting coached at Boston College. I think he's going to Boston College. I think that's where he's committed to, which is where we have a couple of guys that are already been drafted with the team from years prior that are in the pipeline there at Boston College. So, and one of them that came from Boston College was our rookie last year who won Rookie of the Year. So
okay, so right now, so if he's on his way to college, I'm assuming he's in high school.
Yeah, I believe he's 18 or 19.
Okay, so 18 and 19, going through the pipeline at Boston College. So it's kind of almost like the, baseball, right? Where, like a lot of these guys, they'll come out of high school, go to like single A, double A ball, then go to the actual pros.
I guess, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird. The process is weird. Some go to college, some just play in whatever league in Canada or Sweden or whatever. So start getting – I mean, because that old saying, grown-ass men. Well, some of these kids come out of high school and they think that they're NHL-level grown-ass men ready to play, and some don't. They still need to grow another couple years and start getting a few more pubes behind them before they feel like they can take on the big boys who are going to be smashed. The true men, who are in upper tiers like we are, getting a little bit older, get a little bit different muscle composure to you. So especially if they're going to be smashing up against the boards, they don't want them killing these guys.
Okay. Sounds good. Again, guys, I'm not a hockey person. I'm learning on the fly, so this is just new information. I'm just asking questions. If somebody's listening, don't know much about hockey, Mike can kind of fill us in on this.
What about the next pick? Which is another thing that makes this podcast so cool, dudes. We get to sit here and talk about this kind of stuff. You get to learn me up on stuff. I get to learn you up on stuff. It's all about what your background is and where you're going. So
for sure.
So this one, I wish Kyle was on right now. We talked to him. Obviously, him being a Yinzer, he's a big Pittsburgh fan. So over the last couple of years, we've had a real good trade partnership that's established with Pitt, and we ended up getting we traded for a couple of draft positions last year with them that got us what I believe is going to be in our future goalie, and a guy named Eustace Noonan, who's over in Liga right now. So. So this year we traded up for a guy named Ryder Rollston. He's an American going to Notre Dame. So I think he was the only American that we drafted this year, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe that other kid was the Ambrosio kid. I can't remember though. Like I said, I don't know much about that kid. But Ryder Rollston, he's a pretty intense kid. He's obviously going to be a project too, with him being later rounds. I believe this is round 5. Yeah, okay. So that's where that was at. 167. So So in order to gain the 139 from Pittsburgh, I'll go ahead and just talk about this real quick. They had to trade away the 7th round pick that we had, which I'm really, really friggin' glad they did, because this ended up taking 8 hours, dude. 8 friggin' hours to go through 6 rounds technically today. It was just an absolute fiasco, because every time someone trades up, they automatically get – it's not like the NFL where it's like, okay, well, you had 2.5 minutes left on the board when we got the notification about the trade, so that's how much time you got, because you should know who the hell you're trading up for. Now, this one, they get a complete recycle of the clock. So the 3 or 5 minute window starts right over again, dude. So you just sit there.
Oh, that's painful. That's painful.
It's miserable, dude. So miserable. It's like, dude, how the hell are you trading up and not knowing who you're grabbing? Like, give me a freaking break.
People just trading up for the sake of trading up. Just
to, I guess, hang out there long enough. So eventually you could tell, by the time this trade happened, you could tell Joe Sakic was sitting there at Pepsi Center going, I'm not hanging out here until 6 o'clock tonight. You guys can kiss my ass. Who cares about the 7th round pick? Show of hands? Nobody? All right. Well, let's get out of here a little bit early. So they're like, all right, we'll trade up a couple of spots for this guy who may or may not be there anyways. And how about we get to go home and see our families for dinner?
Nice one. All right, 167.
I don't know shit and shoved in it about this guy, bro.
Ooh, okay.
Nils Lamon, I don't know anything about him. I got to do some more research. He came in on the later tier. I think this was 6, right? Yeah. So
trade from Florida, right?
Yeah. I'm not even sure who this Florida trade was for, to be honest with you, buddy. I don't know who he sent to Florida in the first place. So
okay. So that was a big mystery one. 167 is a mystery.
I'm not familiar about that. I'll figure it out next time. So all right. So that concludes the draft. So the other big thing we got going on starting Friday is going to be the free agency tracker.
Draft first, free agency second.
Correct.
Damn. If only the NFL did it that way.
It makes sense that way, right?
Right. Which I can see both sides. You know, you go to free agency, you build your roster. What holes you missing? You go to the draft, but you know. And I see the argument for vice versa. You build your team through the draft, what holes you're missing, you go through free agency. Honestly, I kind of like the draft part first, because then it makes the draft just that more exciting. Then you pick up and you fill the rest with free agency. So
yeah, well, and the other cool thing about it too is during the draft you can trade guys. So
that would be dope. Dope.
So, some of these guys, these are packages for these trades. It's not just picks. They'll be like, all right, well, I'm sending you so-and-so for so-and-so and that selection. And they do it right there on the spot. So, which I know does happen in the NFL, but they don't do it with major players. Whereas, like today, there was a couple major players that got traded in part of the package that, like I said, after free agency in the NFL, you're never going to see happen. So, that's another cool thing about it. So, before even going into free agency, these guys either get to accumulate or salary cap dump somebody that they desire or don't anymore. So it's
gotcha.
Yeah, that process is pretty cool.
All right, let's go over to Spot Track. And ladies and gentlemen, honestly, Spot Track to me is one of the best sites to use for anything free agency, contract wise. It just has all the information and it's super easy. You can do filters, everything. Like we always use Spot Track.
Dude, we love it. It's a great reference. They've got all the wonderful information you need. Hell, they already have the cap hits here for us. Shows us exactly why these guys are UFAs or RFAs. So we'll go down the process here. Thank you guys again at Spot Track for all of your wonderful info. Henrik Lundqvist. So this guy was basically the all-time. I think he set all the records for goaltending in with the New York Rangers. He just never won a cup. So this year they got a couple real hot shot young kids that came in ended up taking his position. I mean, just it's a byproduct of getting older. So came in, took his position. Rumor mill right now is that he's going to end up going to the Washington Capitals.
Okay. And so he's 38. Geez. So is that is that typical for somebody his age? I mean, why did he get traded? Or why did he get? Or why was he unrestricted free agent?
So his contract's up. It was coming up as a restricted free agent. He was one of those that got bought out. So what they do is they put him on the waiver wire, and then if nobody picks him up, they just got to pay him out for whatever's left on his contract. But in the process, they open up the salary cap. They don't have to take that hit across the board.
Okay, gotcha.
There's a couple in these. There's a couple of them in here that I'm going to shout out at you that end up happening. So they did that to Lundqvist, Bobby Ryan with the Ottawa Senators. They did that to him as well. Alex Pietrangelo got bought out. Or no, I'm sorry, Alex Pietrangelo. It was his final year, so he didn't get bought out. Braden Holtby, it was his final year. They didn't have to buy him out. Kyle Turris, he just got traded from Nashville during the draft. I can't remember who it was with. Corey Crawford, he's unrestricted. I don't think they had to pay him out. So Taylor Hall, this is the guy I was discussing earlier that they basically paid a king's ransom to New Jersey with. Mm-hmm. And ended up giving a first round this year, and I think there's for next year as well. And they couldn't even get him under contract because he didn't want to stay there. So it was a real debauchery, man. The whole process ended up being a bomb. And now because of it, he's a potential to end up in Colorado, to be honest with you. So if he wants to – he's not going to get the money he wants in Colorado, but if he wants a shot at a Stanley Cup, I mean, right now the Avs are a plus 800 favorite with Vegas to win the Stanley Cup. They're by far the favorites to win next year, which is awesome considering the fact that the team's been a basement team for so many years. Yeah.
If I was him, chasing at this point.
If I was him, I would be. I mean, every team he's played with so far, he was drafted into the Edmonton Oilers. That's where he ended up getting the season MVP. Then ended up getting traded to the Devils. Was it traded? Was he traded or signed a big contract? It doesn't matter either way. He ended up with the Devils at one point in time. So he went to two perennially garbage teams in the last 10 years. And now he's going to end up being either overpaid somewhere or ring chasing somewhere. So I do hope he comes in, takes a lesser contract for the Avs. It'd be great to see him on either the first or second line. But yeah, so that's the end of that. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, he's one of those mid-level players, dude, that he's on Edmonton and he's got a name, but also he plays on a line with two of the best players in the NHL. So I think
it's not really him.
Right. Yeah. He's just kind of he's not even a centerpiece. He's just an addition. So I think they could take him or leave him. Gotcha. Especially look at what his cap hit is. It's $6 million. He hasn't lived up to it. Let's see here. Michael Grandland, he got bought out by Nashville. Tyson Barrie. So he just left Colorado this year to go to Toronto on a 1-year deal that they paid him that much for, and that was it. It was just a 1-year deal. So he's an unrestricted free agent again. So we could end up seeing a reunion with him in Colorado. I don't know. But, yeah, so he's really close friends with a lot of the guys on the team. Mikko Koivu, that guy's old as shit. He's just going to be a depth piece somewhere he goes.
Right, 37. That's pretty old.
Mike Green is a goalie. I'm sorry, Mike Green is he's an older defenseman. What is he? Yeah, 34. He's an older defenseman for Edmonton. I think he scored 1 or 2 goals for him. Kept him in the series with the Blackhawks. Nathan Horton, that guy's a no-show. Tori Krug. So this is the one that I've been advocating for. So this is probably my favorite player from Boston besides Tuukka Rask, who's another guy. So Tori Krug's unrestricted free agent with Boston, whereas Tuukka Rask is a restricted free agent. Tuukka Rask is probably one of the best goalies that's ever played. He's fantastic. he just catches a really bad rap with the Boston fan base because they're brutal. And Tori Krug is originally from Detroit, so there's talk about him going to the Red Wings. But if he wants a ring, which he never got with Boston, I mean, dude, he would make an absolutely nightmarish pairing for the Avs. He's a blue line to blue line shutdown defenseman, man. He's exactly what we need across from Cale Makar, especially with the guys that we have in the pipeline right now. So I would love to see that happen. What do we got? There's another one. Wayne Simmons is another one that he's been connected to the Avs. He's an older guy. He's been in the league for years. He played most of his tenure with the Philadelphia Flyers. He's real respected, but he got traded to Buffalo in some package this year. Obviously, it was just a short-term effect. There's another one. Carl Soderberg, that guy, he was in Colorado. They traded him to Arizona. Tyler Toffoli. So this was a weird one, too. So Vancouver was trying to make a deep run in the playoffs. They ended up trading, I believe, they traded their first-round pick for Toffoli as well. He's won a Stanley Cup, maybe 2 with the Kings, at least 1 with the Kings. And now he's an unrestricted free agent. So they're going to end up having to pay him, which I don't know if they had already come to if they'd come to terms with him or not. But
so is he like a major piece for them? I'm assuming if he's already won championships.
You know, he didn't really do anything in the playoffs, man. He was kind of a no-show the whole time. And I mean, the guy's dangerous. He's lethal. So when he was with the Kings, he was pretty much their entire offense for a while there.
So maybe they re-up with him, but just for not as much.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to stay there. I think that he's going to end up going somewhere else. I think that was a one-and-done kind of process with Vancouver. They, like I said, they got him halfway through the season. If he was really going to be a focal point for them, they probably would have already been in contract talks with him, and we would have seen that buttoned up before the season got done.
Gotcha.
Justin Advocator. So this is another guy that's been going around. He played with Detroit, he played with Detroit for a while. People connected him to the Avs. I don't want him. Nemesnikov. So this guy's with the Avs. We traded with the Ottawa Senators during the season for him. We basically gave up nothing for him. It was a great trade, dude. Joe Sakic is a beast when it comes to trades, man. He's already fleeced a whole bunch of teams. He especially likes beating up on Toronto, dude. He's taken the general manager from Toronto's lunch money more times than I can count at this point. So
give me your money.
He's embarrassed, that kid, dude. Nemesnikov, they paid. He was on a $4 million contract. They're not going to give him that much again. But I hope that they keep him around, dude. He was definitely a great addition, great intensity player for the team. Wasn't much of a liability. I really liked his game, and they've extended an offer to him, so hopefully he accepts it and stays, because he was kind of a journeyman for a little while there in the league, even though he's a good player. But the teams that he ended up on were either really good and he ended up getting buried and traded, or they were really bad and he ended up getting traded. So.
Gotcha. What else we got?
So Jacob Markstrom, here's another big one. So word on the street is Vancouver can't re-sign this guy. He was their shutdown goalie throughout the entire playoffs. He pretty much carried them into the same round of the playoffs that we were in. The Canucks ended up losing same round against the Knights that we did against Dallas. And it was solely because of Markstrom's play. Like, their team was okay around him, but he was just the goalie we needed with the talent that we had, or that we had.
Why can't they re-sign him? Are they out of money? Are they really tight on cap?
I don't think he wants to be there, dude. I mean, they're not
Vancouver,
that tight.
Got a problem.
Yeah, they're not. Vancouver. And they're in bad shape if he leaves, dude, because their backup goalie isn't that good. So they literally, like, that. Our goalies aren't great. They're pretty decent, but they can at least rotate out and still perform at about the same level. Vancouver only has him. So if he leaves, they're screwed. they're going to end up having to pay for like Braden Holtby or, well, not even Leonard. Leonard just ended up signing a big contract with the Knights. So they're going to end up having to trade for somebody or hope that they can pay some other free agent that, a king's ransom, try and come in and hang out with them. Michael Grabner is another one that was, I don't know, somehow they mainstreamed him to the Avs. I don't want him. Guy's been around forever. He's a right winger. He's not nearly the guy he used to be, and he still wasn't even good then. So Thomas Greiss, he's probably the one that's going to end up in Vancouver replacing Markstrom. He just played for the Islanders. He was a really good backup for them. When Varlamov wasn't playing, he would come in and back up, and he did really well. His save percentage is pretty decent. As you can tell, Markstrom's is a little bit better, but still, I mean, it's not bad. Jay Bouwmeester, man, he was the swan song of the season. He's done in the NFL. He's done in the NHL, man. He basically had a mini heart attack on the bench this season. Ended up shutting down the game, and they ended up postponing it till a later point in time. And, yeah, it was just really unfortunate to see. But, yeah, he had a mini heart attack on the bench. He's 37 years old. The guy needs to hang up his skates. Jack Johnson. So they just paid. He still had 2 years left on his contract. The Penguins hate this guy so much, they bought him out of the contract for the whole thing. They ended up being like $9 million, dude. Something astronomical.
How unbearable are you, sir?
Yeah, the fan base hates him that much. He was just an absolute liability on the blue line. Guy fucking sucks. So they went ahead and they pulled the trigger like, all right, well, we got to appease the fan base a little bit. Let's get this guy out of here. So after everybody grabbed their torches and pitchforks, finally the upper management heard the people's cry and ended up deciding to go and cut bait with this dude. So see if there's anybody. Colin Wilson. I don't know why. For some reason, there's a little bit of a Kickstarter going on to keep this dude on the Avs. I don't want him. Guy's always injured. He can get out of here. He hasn't done squat for us. Yeah. Anton Hudoven. So he's the one that took Dallas to the Stanley Cup final this year. They're going to have to pay him out the absolute wazoo to stay in the league. And you look at his age, he's up there, man. That's going to be tough. But his save percentage is insane. So, yeah, it was prolific what he did for his run in the playoffs. Kudos to that guy, man. That's fantastic. But, yeah, he's going to cost a lot to stay in Dallas. Van Riemsdyk, they'll probably bring him back to Carolina. I'm gonna guess that deal will get done. That's really been the only place that he's been decent. Corey Perry, that little scuzzball. I hope they kick his ass out of the NHL, dude. I hate that guy. I hate that dude. Yeah, he's a little worm. I don't think a 35-year-old guy shouldn't be getting multiple season suspensions, but that's just how he is, dude. He does a lot of real cheap crap. So, what was it? During the Vegas series, during the Avs series, he's notorious for just taking falls, and you actually get penalized for that in the NHL. So if you take like a false fall or something like that, they actually will hem you up and give you a penalty for it. It's called embellishment. And that's 2 minutes in the box. Well, he did that like 6 or 7 times, and they only called him for embellishment like 1 time. But at the same time, he does a lot of little cheap shit where he sits there and like jabs people in the balls. Just a lot of no-no stuff that you don't do, you know?
Yeah, that's classless.
Yeah, so but he's older, so he knows when the refs are looking, when they're not. He's very cognizant of that. But yeah, like during the Vegas series, one of the skaters was coming down the ice, and he was like, the puck had gotten cleared into the zone, and so his back was to Corey Perry. Well, Corey Perry came up and checked him in the back of the head, dude. And guy dropped to the ice, and the refs didn't see it, so they couldn't call a penalty on it.
Mm-hmm.
They can go and review after a penalty is called, but if they don't call a penalty, then or if the guy's
review.
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, he's just a little worm, dude.
Dude, who's this motherfucker that's 6'9", bro?
Zdeno Chara.
You're in the wrong sport, sir.
Zdeno Chara. That guy's been around since the 90s, dude.
Holy 43 years old.
Zdeno Chara.
Ridiculous.
Well, yeah, and then the other one, you look at Joe Thornton. So both of these guys, and Thornton, they call him Jumbo Joe. He's a gigantic dude. He knocked out a goalie in one of the games this season because the goalie – so he came up, and after the goalie covered up the puck with his mitt, Joe came up and just gave it a last little poke and then kept skating around. Well, this little 5'10" goalie came up to him and got in his face. He just leans back and goes, boom, dude, and just leveled him. Just laid this, put Mrazek clean on his ass, man. It was hysterical. And Joe Thornton's a real passive dude. He doesn't really get upset unless he has to. It's just not his nature. So it was hilarious watching him drop this guy. It's like, man, that guy is a little shithead. But Zdeno Chara, man, he's a slime ball too. I'm not gonna lie. He plays Boston hockey, which is cheap shots. I mean, he broke a guy's jaw knocked out a couple guys' teeth this year from doing cross checks to the mouth. Ended up getting a suspension for it. He slashed one guy in the leg, ended up injuring his ankle or something like that. And another one stepped on the guy's, or I can't remember what it was, during the playoffs against the Canes. Was it the Canes or the Lightning? One or the other. He ended up taking the guy out while the guy was down by the goal. And he was right outside. He was right outside the goal box and took the guy out and ended up catching a puck off the inside of his skate and dropped to the ice like he was the victim. He needs to get out of here too.
Yeah, look, douchebag.
Yeah.
I say a little douchebag. He's a big douchebag. He's
a very big douchebag. So these guys are just kind of second rate at this point. Shattenkirk for Tampa Bay. He used to be an Av. Matt Nieto, he can get out of here. Mark Barbario, we don't need him either. Kevin Connaughton, they didn't offer anything out to him, so he's an unrestricted free agent. Yeah, the rest of these are just kind of depth pieces, dude. I don't really want to go sit here waterboarding everything on them. Maybe, yeah, I'm not seeing anything spectacular here that's like, man. Also, Valeri Nichushkin, he was kind of a redemption story this year for the Avs. So he was like 20th overall or something like that for the Stars back in like 2014 or 15. Things ended up not panning out, ended up being a big bust. So he took a 1-year prove-it deal with the Avs this year. And I mean, he wasn't a breakout character by any means, but by his standards, he did a lot better. So that might be one worth bringing back if they can get him at like a veteran's minimum. But yeah, the rest of these guys are just all kind of depth pieces that you just take it or leave it. So and that pretty much just kind of sums up the series with what we got going on with the Avs and kind of like the major players coming up for, UFA and free agency. We'll see some trades throughout the next handful of days, and then everything will open up. So the one thing that's different about the NHL, I'm not sure about any other sport, is they have the ability to pretty much trade for anything, dude. So just like in football, there's a non-tampering phase where teams can't talk to a guy about trade talks about contract talks or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Well, hockey is the same thing, but the difference is they can actually trade away the rights to somebody for like a draft pick or money, and then that team can go into contract talks before free agency opens up. Now, that doesn't guarantee that the deal is going to get done, but somebody can trade away capital in hopes that player is going to end up hearing them out and want to sign on with them. So
that's a big gamble. That's a huge gamble.
That's a terrible gamble, dude. That is
a terrible gamble.
That is a terrible gamble because all somebody has to do is be like, yeah, you know what, I'm good. I'm going to wait and see what my options are when the door opens up. Yeah, exactly. And you lose a potential prospect or some other crap, but you just never know if that's going to be a hit. So, yeah, most teams don't do it. They just have the option to do it. But yeah, so that sums up our busy NHL Wednesday. So the season's going to be kind of a miss right now. We'll get into it as of, I think it got pushed back to January, which makes sense. I mean, players just got done, especially the teams that made it all the way to the end, just got done playing 2 months of hockey. They're going to want a little bit of a break before they start going to training camp in the next month or so. So
sure.
That's where we're at with that. But that pretty much sums up another episode of
the Uncommon Man podcast. Hey, everybody, real quick, do us a favor, like, share, subscribe. I've been noticing in a lot of our Twitter followings that we have a lot of hockey fans. So if you want to leave us a comment, hockey fans, please leave us a comment. If you want to jump on the pod and you want to talk hockey with us, hey, drop us comments, let us know. We can get together, we can figure out time, dates, so we can jump on. This is the off season for hockey, so I'm pretty sure it's a lot of news and talks and stuff like that can go on. Here in a couple of months, they'll be back at training camp. So hey, if you want to jump on, you want to talk hockey, hey, drop us a comment. Like I say, we'll get together, we'll talk, time, date, all that good stuff.
Yeah, and just cliff note real quick, we have been kind of dropping the ball. Both David and myself have been super busy with the Uncommon League draft, fantasy league that we have going on. We are trying to set up right now, just given the parameters of some of the recordings programs that we use. We can't do a big group for an extended period of time to talk about anything really. So because of that, we're trying to fine-tune, figure out which programs allow us to do a group meet and actually have more than about a 30-minute window to try and get everybody incorporated. So it's a process. It's happening right now. We're still in fine-tuning, getting a decent pod going on to either Spotify or Apple. That's not an easy tasking anyways, at least for somebody who's pretty computer illiterate, which I'm pretty sure at this point – I know I am. I think he is too.
I definitely am too.
So bear with us on that, guys. It's a growing process. We appreciate you guys sticking out with us, and we hope you enjoy it. Looking forward to future endeavors with you. It's been another episode of the Uncommon Man Pod. We'll catch you later. David?
Well, later.